Okay, not so great news. I'm seeing some sparklies here in this oil we drained. Hey, welcome back to Optimistic Garage. My name's Jake. Today we're going to be working on my newly acquired Cummins Onan industrial generator. Now the story on this generator is it came out of an abandoned house the guy I bought it from. Didn't know much about it other than he didn't want it. And that's where I stepped in. So this has been sitting X number of years. We have no idea. I will be honest, I pulled over the motor and it's free. And that's about as much as I know. Haven't looked in the gas tank, haven't done anything else. So today we're gonna go through all the systems, try to bring this legendary industrial heavy duty generator back to life and back in use. So let's get after it. Okay, so since I don't know anything more about this than what I've already told you, I'm gonna go ahead and start with basics. We got to go through all the systems. We need fuel, we need spark, we need compression, and at that point the engine should run. Now, will the generator generate? To be determined. We'll find out here in the end, but if we can get this running. It looks to be fairly complete. I did notice we're missing the air filter. So there should be a filter cover here. Obviously the air filter would go here. That's probably not something that's going to be readily available for a unit that's this old. You know, we got some loose wires here. That seems fine. You know, we're gonna have to go through it. Obviously, fuel seems to be, you know, could be an issue, more than likely. So we'll have to figure out something here. My thought initially was maybe just do a pod filter off of here. There's plenty of room. And they're fairly cheap, and that would get us comfortable enough to actually feel like we can run it for a little bit of time. Let's go ahead and start with the fuel tank. Oh man, it is a plastic tank. Oh, I can already smell it. There's some in it. It actually doesn't smell. It's old, but I bet it had some stable or something in it because it doesn't smell varnishy or anything like that. Let's figure out where that old fuel line's going. It probably needs to be replaced anyway. And let's try to dump some of that fuel out and see what it looks like visually. All right, so our fuel line comes out here. Runs around into a fuel filter over here. I'm gonna disconnect it right here with some pliers a minute. Let's drain it into this. Oh, she's crusty. Probably want to replace this fuel filter anyway. We have enough. Here we go. Yeah, a little tinted. Not flowing very good though. That's an issue. Something's clogged because there's fuel in that tank. So there's issue number one. Let's figure out why she's clogged. I'm gonna pull it off right here and see what happens. There we go. Okay, so it wasn't clogged. That actually looks fine. There's actually a shutoff right here. So I just undid that, and it seems to be flowing fine now. It's cleared up a little bit. I'm okay with that. We're gonna let that be. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut this for now. I think that part of it for now we're fine. I do need to get a new fuel filter. That one is obviously garbage. Let's pull off this plate to the carburetor here and see if we can't get access to the carb, and let's give that a once over. You know what, even before we do that, let me get a little starter fluid. Let's check spark. Let's see if this thing will even bark. I'm gonna grab some starter fluid a minute. Also grab a battery charger. We'll start throwing this on the charge. This has electric start, but obviously, I'm sure, yeah, the button seems to be working. Obviously the battery is gonna be no good, but if I can get a charger on it, maybe we can get enough juice just to check to make sure that the starter is gonna engage. If that's the case, then I'll buy a new battery for that. Okay, starter fluid, let's see what happens. All right, get the old, I'm sure there's no juice in this, no sparks. Put it on full boil. We'll see if it does anything. Let's see if it takes any charge or not. We'll let that cook for a little bit. All right, let's throw some starter fluid in this thing and just see if it pops off. I'll set you guys over here by the exhaust. All right, here we go. Wow. First pull. What? That carburetor might be okay. Okay, before we get too excited here. I didn't expect that at all. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It actually ran for way longer than it sounded fine. Let's check the oil. Should have done that first, obviously. Let's check the oil, and I'm gonna get a fuel filter for it. Throw a new fuel filter on it. Maybe pick up I think I'm gonna pick up a pod filter, one of those little mini bike air pod filters for now, so we have something on there. And I can't believe it. I honest to God thought it was gonna be way more than that. Now, we still have a lot of hurdles to cover here because, one, it's not running on its own fuel, so we'll get that sorted. But we have spark, we have compression. We can get this to idle. We can start playing with the generator, figuring out the voltage. Yeah, this is cool. All right, let's keep moving forward. This could be a big score. We get this to run. This is, I spent $150 on this. These things were $1,000 new. This could make a great generator. So, all right, next step, let me pull this base plate off for the old filter and see what the carburetor looks like behind there, how we're gonna mount our new air filter that'll also give us access to that filter for the fuel, and we can replace that. Oh, and let's check the oil. Where's that at on this thing? Here's an oil filter. It does have, it looks like some type of pressure sensor here. So that's good. So we must have oil. Usually what happens here is these will kill, if they're working properly, they'll kill spark if it senses low oil. But that was not the case. What we got over here is the oil right there. I think that's the dipstick. Right there. Oh, wow. We got oil, we got a lot of oil. Is that overfilled? Let me go get a rag a minute, figure out what's going on. That seemed like it was really full pulling it out of there, didn't it? So it has markings on here, low, full. We should be somewhere in between. Oil looks good. Let's see what it says. Yeah, we're way overfilled. Holy cow. This thing is the oil's clean, but there's way too much of it. That's bad. So we need to drain some of that. Looks like there's a drain plug right here, possibly. Let me look into that. We got to get some of that out before we even try. We don't want to run it anymore. I mean, at least we had some oil, but we build oil pressure in this. We don't want it blowing out. So let me get a pan and let's get some of this oil out of it. Okay, so this is going to be kind of tough. I found it over on this side with the oil filter. Looks like maybe a more direct drain. I cut the bottom of a coffee can, plastic coffee can, to get fit under here, and I propped it up. Man. I propped it up with my jack. Okay, got some locking pliers on it. I was able to loosen it up. Let's see what comes out of here. There you go. Looks really clean. All right, that's good for now. Empty my little tray and then check our dipstick again and repeat. Ooh, I can smell gas. So somebody was trying to start this and flooding it out. I smell a little bit of gas in there, so we are gonna have to change the oil. But let's check our dipstick again in a minute and see where we're at. You know, you're always taking a chance when you buy something on Marketplace as is, but when they admit to you that they pulled it out of an old rental property that was, and it was just left abandoned in the garage, you know, it makes you wonder, why did they leave it? Why would they leave a piece of equipment like this? You never know, you know, people do things for lots of different reasons. But you just never know what you're gonna end up with. You take it, you buy it, you hope for the best. And you know, we're optimistic. So let's check that dip. Should be a little lower on the stick. I'm gonna have to wipe in a minute. Nice and clean. Let's see what it says. Wow, still way too much. I think part of it is because there might be gas, which is a little concerning that we have an issue if there's gas getting in the oil. But I'm gonna keep repeating this until I get it level on my dipstick, and then I'll check in with you. All right, I got that. I took quite a bit out. I got it level again off the jack, and we're right at the full. Smelling gas, so before I go ahead and give it a full oil change and buy a $15 filter, because this has an oil filter just like your car or truck would have, I'd like to run it. It's got enough velocity. I think the oil is not going to hurt anything as long as you don't run it under load. I want to make sure that crankcase seal and everything is okay. What I don't want to do is put all new oil and spend money on that, and then it's fired up and come to find out it's just filling the oil pan with fuel. So we're good there. Okay, so we got that fixed. Let's, this has been boiling now. I don't know if it's taking a charge, but we're getting spark. See? There we go. Let's, since I don't have any fuel hooked to it, let's just see if we can crank it over and see if the starter does anything. So, should be it here. Let's see what happens. It sure does. Yes! Cool. Yeah, that battery's toast. You can see it went all the way up. It's dropping back down, but we'll let her boil a little longer. Let's see, 1222. I'm guessing 723 it says it needs to be replaced by. So, yeah. 4-year-old garden battery. They don't last that long. It was a little 12 volts, so I'm gonna put the cap back on this. We've got enough fuel in there for now. Make sure we don't get any junk in there. We've got Idle-matic on here, which was a nice feature. We got our voltmeter, can't read that. All of our gauges on here. Sweet. Okay, so we've got oil, we've got a starter, we've got spark. We know that because it took off with some carb cleaner. I think we're at a point where let's get some new fuel line on it, a new fuel filter on it, and let me order or go find an air filter pod that will fit that. And I think we just start it up and see if we can get this thing to idle without messing with that carburetor. A lot of this old equipment, when you get it, if you start messing with carburetors and stuff, most of the time you have to, right? Most of the time they're gummed up, but because the fuel doesn't smell bad, it kind of feels like this was maintained, which, again, if what that guy told me is true and he did pull it out of an abandoned house, I don't know why they left it here if they took the time to maintain it. It doesn't make any sense. So, the other thing this is definitely going to need, they consider these portable. This thing's got to weigh 150, 200 pounds. I bought a cheap wheel kit from Hobo Freight. I think I'm going to put that on it so I can move this thing around. Right now, as it is, I can hardly move it myself. And I feel good about this one, that the engine's going to be good. I think maybe we throw that on there too. All right, so I got the old fuel filter off there. And I mean, it's used up, but I don't see anything too concerning. Just tarnished fuel. So that's, you can see the pleats in there still pretty open. So needed to be changed. Not too bad. The hose is still flexible, so I'm going to try to reuse it with the clamps. So pick up a new filter there. And I'll show you what we got going on over here. I got this plate off here, which was the old filter. And you can see here is our carb. And we got our choke. Our fuel line going in. This is our breather tube up here, which went into the top of this. And then we just run our fuel line over. But I'm gonna have to figure out a way to attach a filter if I'm not using this piece. So let me come up with something here to solve this problem. And once I figure that out, then we will, I got original oil filter on there. Once I get that figured out, we'll get that ordered and I'll be back with you. All right, I went ahead and got a filter here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the fuel filter and the lines back to the carburetor so we can get the fuel lines and fuel system set basically going forward here. I had to order an adapter for the air filter. Should be here tomorrow-ish. So to keep our feet moving, let's get the fuel lines back together, and then let's get the wheel kit put on this thing so that I can actually move it out of the way and make it useful, because right now it's kind of stuck. So, all right, I'm gonna get this on. Give me a minute and I'll show you when I'm done. It's all set. All right, got our fuel line hooked back up. Cut out the bad piece of, there's some cracking on the end. Cut that off. I had plenty left over. Rest of it's in good shape. Our new fuel filter in there, clamped on. I still have the fuel turned off for now until we get this situation figured out. So I also had to order a new I also had to order a new oil filter. The local auto parts store didn't have that. So that's where we're at. Now, to keep moving while we're waiting on parts, I got to get the battery off there so I can bring that in for a core and exchange it. And then I picked up this wheel kit. This was from Hobo Freight. This is for their heavy duty generator they sell there. Heavy duty. To be honest with you guys, I looked at buying some metal and some wheels and a handle separate and just weld my own wheel dolly setup, but it cost me more to do that than it did to just buy this. I think I paid like 60 bucks for this kit. Comes with everything you need. I don't know, we'll see if it's any good. It's you know, it was the most economical one I could go with, and I need something to be able to move this around. It cannot lift it. So let me open this up, let's see what it looks like, and let's get it installed and go from there. Okay. Well, 2 wheels, a handle, and some hardware. Let me put this on, and should just fit right onto the existing frame. We shall see. All right, so the way this works is these axles are supposed to slide through a bracket that we don't have, because this isn't the right generator for this kit. So to make this work, I think what I'm going to do is drill through here so we can slide this through and tighten it up, and hopefully, you know, maybe we'll do it there. Let me jack this up and see how much room we have here, if we can make this work. All right, so here's the plan if I had one. I'm gonna drill a hole through here, enough to get this through, and then we're gonna add some spacers on the back side so we can tighten it down. And then I might tack it on this solid piece here against the bare metal to give it a little extra support. We'll see how it turns out. Let me drill through in a minute and see what happens. Okay, there's our hole. Something like that. There's our axle. That'll work, I think. Let me find a washer, something that will fit that backside, because it's not wide enough. Won't be able to tighten that all the way up. And I've got this nice flat piece here. I think I can burger weld a zap weld in there or something. See what I can come up with. So I've got these old aluminum spacers from a different project I kept. I wonder if we could, something like that. I think that'll work. Tighten that down. I don't know, I think that's pretty sturdy. I think we're good. I mean, let's throw a wheel on there and see if it fits. Jack it up a little higher. I think that'll work. It's actually kind of straight too, believe it or not. works. All right, I'm gonna repeat on the other side, and then we will work on how we're gonna attach the handle. Now, on the generator, they want you to put this on. There is a bar right there that goes across that the handle attaches to. We don't have that. So we're gonna have to come up with one. I'll find some scrap metal or something I can run across there. So. All right, got both of those on. I'm pretty impressed. No measurements needed, just the eyeball. Let's drop it down. There it is. I mean, seems fine. Let's see if we can. Oh yeah, fine. Cool. All right, next I think is the front legs. So let me get my jack around on this side, jack it back up, and we'll figure out how those are supposed to attach. I'm sure there'll be more drilling involved. Big enough. Yep. Perfect. Pretty gross under here. Probably should clean this. Probably won't. This one will do it this way, the opposite. Because that's the way I got it. Sweet. All right, there's one on. The other one will go right there. I got to readjust my lift a minute. I'll repeat and then we'll show you the final results. All right, we got it all set. You can see they're both on there. And I drilled them through. I just drilled right through the plate here. Use the existing hardware that they came with. Let's lower it down and see if it stands. Should. Actually, I'm gonna have to get lifted up because the jack stands in the way. Hopefully I won't have to do this anymore. Voila. Well, let's see how level it is. Not too bad. It's definitely leaning a little bit towards the front, which is not ideal, but I don't think it's enough to hurt anything, so I like it. You can see I pulled the battery out so I could get in there for access. I'll throw that back in there. And then we got to come up with a plan for the handle, which I'm not quite sure how that mounts yet. So let me get that apart and figure out if there's anything. See, this is all plastic tank. So we're gonna have to go from here to here with probably flat bar. I don't know if it'll, well, maybe it'll go up here. Let me see what I got. All right, so this simply mounts onto, it looks like it's supposed to have a flat bar right here. I have this bar strap. It's real heavy, really too big, too thick. I don't think that would work. I'd really like it to be mounted a little lower because you're gonna have to lift up. You don't want to be lifting way up top. So I think that's gonna put us at a standstill for today, unfortunately. We're waiting on those parts to show up for the air filter and the oil change. And I will look for some metal bar to put across there, and what we'll do is just weld a bar across and then mount that, and we'll be getting real close for this thing firing up. And then we still have to figure out if it's gonna produce any sparkles. You know, is it gonna do the thing? I mean, it runs, but is it gonna produce power? I don't know. I'll be back with the parts in a day or two. All right, well, it's been about a week. I got some parts in for the generator, so I thought I'd try to get a little bit done tonight. We still need to work on the air filter situation, and I've been struggling to find something that will work. So here's the adapter I got, and you can see I've tried to modify. I don't know what this would fit. It's not even close to fitting this sneaky carb, so that's pretty much just a paperweight. Then I went back to looking at the original setup here, trying to figure out how I could adapt. We got our filter here, which this will work fine. Just have to figure out how in the devil we're gonna hook it to this. So here's what I came up with. I grabbed one of these 3" to 1.5" I don't know, couplers, PVC. I think what we're gonna do is try to mount it on here. I might have to shave it a little bit. We're gonna use some JB Weld, and hopefully there's still enough room to get a socket in there after I do this where we can still tighten up the carburetor. So I think I'm gonna have to remove this post. We'll have to clean this up and try to bond it, and you know, hopefully it's better than nothing. So let me get to it. Okay, so I went ahead and mixed some of this stuff up and made a little bit of a mess of it, but I think I got enough of it in there to get it to cure and hold it. And then I got about half of this tube left. I'm gonna go back over it here in about a half hour, once it's set up enough where I can move it without it falling off. And then I'm gonna go underneath, turn it over, and just seal. Make sure I get a good seal all the way around. And I think I've left my enough room in there to get a socket. So I'm using this, called Plastic Bond by JB. From everything I could tell, this stuff is made for plastic to metal. It's also good for resistance on vibration and stuff like that. So I figured it might work good for this. We'll find out. I think it was $8 for the tube, and I think I paid $4 for the PVC coupler. So if it works, that's a win. And for the most part, I didn't ruin the original plate. If somebody down the road wanted to find an original, they could put it back on there. I'm not modifying. You know, the other thing you could do is you could get a new carburetor, one that would actually fit a standard pod filter down the road if you wanted to, but we're gonna try to get around it. So, all right, we'll let this set up. I'll be back with you. Okay, while we're waiting for that JB Weld to set up, I'm gonna take this, I got 1/8" by 2" flat steel. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it to length so that we can fit it and weld it, somewhere in here. And that should give us a good spot to mount our handle. All right, I got this piece cut. I'm gonna use these supports. Fit it right in there like that. And we'll weld it each side somewhere right there, right? That fits in there nice and tight, just like that. And then we can weld to the back of these supports as well to give it more rigidity, if you will. All right, well, it's booger welded on there, best I know how to do. It's not terrible. It's straight and it's attached. A little black paint. You won't even be able to tell. All right, we'll clean it up a little bit. Brake clean. And then put some self-etching primer on there. Be good. All right, let me measure halfway point here so we can drill some holes. So the trick is put it up where you want it and then spray it with the color and your holes will be lined up for you. There we go. Now we know right where we need to drill our holes. All right, now that we got our holes drilled, see if they line up. They should. I don't think these, I need some nuts for these yet. Okay, there we go. Gonna grab some nuts for those, but you get the idea. Okay, here's the finished product. Well, not finished, but it's on there. Here's our filter. Pretty happy with that. Obviously, we will spray some paint on this black and, you know, make it look a little better than it is, but that'll work for now. It seems to be sturdy. Next thing I want to do is I got it all bolted back up. Before I paint this and make it look better, we still may have to open up that carburetor. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the fuel. Let's try running this with this setup and see if we can get it to idle on its own. And alright, well, since we have a good running motor, let's keep diving into electricals. I pulled the front panel. There's like 3, 6, 10 screws. Let's see what it looks like, if we can see anything. Holy cow, we got a lot of wires. If there's anything obvious. Like that wire right there is obvious. Disconnected. And that is to our fuse. No, was that, did it just come disconnected or was it already disconnected? That's interesting. Let's see if I can get it back, how tight it goes on there. It's on there pretty tight. It might have been off. Let's see if we see anything else. What's this? Couple loose nuts. That's interesting. I don't see anything that's super alarming except for that wire. And that went to the DC breaker here. So I don't think that was our issue. Got a good running, all right, we got a good running motor. All right, so one thing I am gonna try is I've heard you need to sometimes jump start. If these generators have been sitting a long time, they kind of need a jump start, a boost of voltage to regenerate, basically get the generator regenerating. So I'm gonna disconnect anything going to the main computer supply here, which is these two here. Let me get this one off here, this lug. Let me get that disconnected a minute and see if can't figure something out. All right, so I've got T1, which is the main power coming out of the generator. to my positive here. And T2, which is my ground, I'm going to connect to my ground on my battery charger, and I'm just going to hold it on there for at 12 volts for maybe 5 seconds. Let's see what happens. Might get a spark. Yep. Okay. That means it took something. Plug this stuff all back in, and let's fire it back up and see if we have power. All right, watch that meter. It's hard to see, but let's see if we get anything now. Fire it up. Not seeing any, no power yet. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to try, since the flash did not work or change anything, I'm going to pull this cap off the end of the generator here, opposite side of the engine. I want to see, let's inspect this and see if we can see anything unusual. And maybe we can test the windings or clean them a little bit. Let's see what we got. Pretty dirty. Pull that off there. Doesn't look all that bad. It's a little dirty. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. Let me poke around a minute, see if I can figure anything out. Alright, got my multimeter here, set it to horseshoe mode. I'm going to check the brushes. We should get a beep. I'm going to connect the two terminals here. Or not. So, that means we have an issue. Okay, so since we have an open circuit, meaning our brushes are not doing brush things, I am going to try to pull this screw out right here and pop this cap out, and I think we can see our brush. So let me get that pulled out and see what that looks like. Well, how long are you? Goodness gracious. There it is. Oh yeah. So there's our brushes. Still seem to be doing their thing. Let me measure them. I'm not sure how long they're supposed to be. Could be that these are worn and we need to do something with them. So let me look into this. Okay, so here's where I'm at. I took my ohms reader. I got it at the lowest setting. Inside here, where these brushes that we took out connect to, there's two copper rings right in that hole, straight down, right there. And they're separated by just a little piece of plastic. I put my probe on ohms. I put one on each side, and I got a reading of 57. And that is right at spec, which is good news. That means our rotor is fine. Our windings and everything are fine, and more than likely they're just dirty. So I'm gonna get a piece of 400 grit sandpaper, get in that little area there and try to clean them, and then I'll rotate the engine and keep cleaning it. I also tested this, the brush, and we got positive connection between each spade terminal. So this spade terminal connected to this, and I got a reading, and I did the same thing here. So this is good. So I think our next step is, like I said, clean those brushes in there. Once I get those scrubbed up, I will get back with you and we'll fire this thing back up once I get it all connected. That would be huge. Okay, so I went ahead and got those rings all cleaned up. I took some 180 grit, you can see down there. Those copper looking rings down at the bottom. And then took some electrical cleaner and a rag, and I just held it and spun it and got it all as clean as I could. So I think that's a win. I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble. Let's fire it back up and see if we get power. Okay, I threw the brush back on there now. We weren't getting continuity, whatever. We had an open circuit before. Let's see if it's closed now when I touch these together. Should get a beep. Yep. Sure do. All right. Well, we fixed that much anyway. I don't know if it's gonna have power yet, but I'm gonna keep assembling. All right, I'll get you set up right there. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that or not, if that gauge is working or not, but let's at least set you up right there, and let's see if it does. If not, I'll plug in something. Got my buffer here. We'll plug that in. All right, well, we fixed a problem, but I don't think it was the problem, obviously. We still don't have power. So I pulled the little AVR box off, and I'm gonna order one of these. There's some generic ones for like 30 bucks. And once that comes in, I will slap that on and see if that's our... Okay, finally got our new generic AVR voltage regulator, whatever you want to call it. And it was only like 12 bucks. I picked this one because specifically it's got spade connectors and it looks like the same connector, although the wires are different, as what I had. It's also curved, so I don't know if that's going to matter. Let's see if it fits. Okay, well, I can already see this is way too big to fit this. So I am just going to plug it in loosely, how I think it goes. And then I'm going to try to start this up and run it. And if it produces electricity, I will I know that I need to get a different one, but this will be the solve. This will be the fix before I go and do all that. Okay. Got all that on there. So it's just hanging in here, but it's connected, right? All right, watch that gauge again. See what happens. Okay, I still didn't get any voltage, but when I pulled the regulator back off here to look at it, this spade connector was real loose with the wire popped right out, so it might not have had a good connection. So I plugged it back in, I re-crimped it, and I got everything plugged in again, just dangling here. Obviously it doesn't fit, so I'm gonna have to figure that out, but I wanna know if this is gonna work or not at all. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start it back up, see if we have voltage. If we don't, I'm gonna try to jump 12 volts here for like 1 or 2 seconds to try to jump start it with my jump pack or battery charger and see if that does something. So let's find out. Okay, well, I did show a very little bit of voltage there. It was holding, but it was real low when I jumped it. So there's a setting on the back of that new regulator. I'm gonna turn it out and see if I can turn up the voltage. It might just be set too low. Let me show you. There's a little brass screw on that blue piece there. I'm gonna turn that out. I don't know, let's start 5 turns and then see if that goes up at all. All right, nothing yet. So let me keep diagnosing. Okay, we got all these little breakers on here, and I'm gonna set my meter to horseshoe mode. And I just wanna check to see if we're getting continuity. If we're getting these, if these are actually broken or still working. They should get a beep. So like that, I get a beep. That's good. Those all seem fine. That's fine. That's fine. So those all good. That's a good sign. That means I think those are good to go. Let's find the feed wires coming in and test if we're getting voltage. Let's see if we're getting voltage. There's 2 right here. This. That one off there. This one off here. That's probably the ground. So here's our feed in from the generator. This is the thick one coming in. This is the ground. So I'm gonna get my multimeter to AC voltage, start it up and see if we're getting any voltage off of this wire here. All right, I'm gonna fire it up and I'm gonna probe, set to AC voltage. I am going to probe and see if there's any power coming out of these 2 main. This is the main 2 wires coming from the generator before we get to any of this nonsense. So my idea here is if I probe and I get voltage here while it's running, that means my power is getting to this point, which is good news, but there's something going on in this wiring mess. If we don't get any power here, that means we probably have a winding or something broken in the generator, and that's a no bueno. So let me try it and see what happens. I'll let you know. Okay, so here's what we got. With the motor running and my voltage meter on the main leads coming out of the generator, I got 1 volt. So there was something there. Then I took my battery charger and I jumped it to the brushes like I was doing before, where I would get a spark in here. You can see I still got this one connected. And the voltage would jump to 4 volts, which is not very good considering I'm putting 12 volts into it. So I'm thinking those brushes, those copper rings that we cleaned a while back, maybe still are a little bit dirty, or there's something going on there. So I'm gonna go back in there, re-clean those, wipe them down again, maybe sand them a little more. And then I'm gonna dive into why I'm losing from 12 volts and my battery charger up to those main leads before any switches, why I'm losing that voltage. So let me dig into it more and I'll be back to you. All right, well, here's where we're at with this one. I tried jumping it again. I tried putting the old AVR box thingy in there originally with everything cleaned up. Tried cleaning the rings again. I'm still only reaching 3 or 4 volts. I did an ohms test on the black and white wire that run directly to the stator, the big windings in the motor, and it's open, which means there's something going on in there. I don't see any wires visible that are damaged. But being that we're not getting any ohms readings from the main winding, it's either broken in there or damaged in some way or shape or form. So what did we learn here? Well, generator won't generate if the generator windings are bad, and I think in this case that's what we're looking at. We do have a really nice 14 horse engine that seems to run really well. I'm still going to change the oil on that since I already got the oil in the filter, but we're not going to make power. So what am I going to do? Well, I think I'm going to either take this engine and put it in something else, maybe something for the kids, a go-kart, something like that, or I'm going to list it for the price of the motor. Maybe somebody else will reuse it or wants to put a new generator in it or knows how to fix a generator. The actual windings, that's beyond my skill set. So to replace it is just too much. It's more than it's worth. So yeah, we lost here on this one. I was really hoping we'd get it running for somebody and pass it down the road, but at this point I think I'm just going to cut my losses. We learned a lot, and yeah, this will go for sale and we'll start on a new project. So I appreciate you guys all very much. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. It's free, it doesn't cost anything, and we'll see you next time on the OGC.